And then we'll add the rice, and we're going to cook the soup. So that's how it's supposed to be looking. When you first put them in, they sink to the bottom, and then as they start to cook, they lighten and they come to the top.
So what goes on with the fava?
The fava here, never use a metal spoon in your fava when you're cooking because it sticks. It's cooking. It's just, we're going to let it reduce, and it's going to turn into like, it's not going to be a soup. The way we eat it from the islands, we basically cook it down, and it becomes like a very thick soup. And even when it cools off, it's just basically like you can cut it with a knife. And we eat it with olive oil, and we eat it with salty things, olives and rustic cheeses and fresh baked bread, and that we are cooking in the oven.
Speak of the devils.
No, they're not devils, they're angels.
Right.
We don't believe in devils. So, not that we don't believe in devils, we don't want to have nothing to do with the devils.
Well,
we don't give them any credit. So, as you can see, it's going to, all the liquid is going to cook out, and by that time it should be done.
it thickens up, guys. What happens is, you see how, like, you see the split pea? It actually begins to bind to one another. It almost comes together like a grit as opposed to a soup.
Well, we'll show you.
We're going to show you, but just get the gist of it. So we're still rocking on here. We'll be back.
Alright, so.
Alright, guys, so we're at the magical part here. Freddie, listen up. This is the avolemono part. So you got the lemoner, the lemon juicer. You got a cutting board, you got a knife. Obviously, you got lemons. And the process begins.
Well, basically, for this amount of soup, because it is a very big amount of soup, if you're using the 2 pounds of chopped meat and you're using the gallon of liquid, you're going to need about 2 to 3 lemons. This is a lot of soup, so I'm going to use over 5 lemons and maybe more to make the avolemono. So while the meatballs are the Yourvelakia, I'm going to say it in Greek, the Yourvelakia are boiling and are cooking, I'm going to take this time to basically squeeze my lemon and have it ready and strain it, so I don't have to worry about it later. So you squeeze lemons. For this amount, I'm going to use a little bit less than maybe a cup of lemon juice, because it's a lot of soup. And George has a cold, so lemon for a cold is basically medicine.
According to the Greek philosophies.
Actually, even in the American philosophy.
Well, it works. All I know is that lemon does it.
So, praise the Lord for lemon.
So, we're twisting out lemons, as you can see. And don't ask me why. I never, in all my years, saw my mom ever use lemon concentrate.
Doesn't taste good.
It doesn't taste right. Even once upon a time when the family business was the vending business, like most Greeks grew up with. Even then, we sparingly used concentrated lemon, because anybody with a discerning tongue was able to tell that the lemon wasn't right. So we weren't really accustomed to skimping. So we continue on here. We're twisting out lemons. This is a big lemon, and you can see the size of the hand.
Yeah, it's an antique lemoner that I bought for my daughter-in-law, and very happily gave it to her so she can have it. I myself would prefer to use a plastic one, because it's basically does the job better.
Yeah. Yeah, my mother bought it for the bird lady. So we're rocking on. And we twisted out some lemons. What's the next step from here?
The next step from here is basically we're still waiting for the soup to cook and cool down, so we can show them how to beat the eggs with lemon and how to make it nice and creamy, that it doesn't break apart, and how to add it into the soup, which is the whole trick to making avolemono soup, good avolemono soup.
You got that, Freddie? All right, we'll be back. All right, guys, we're back.
Okay. So we juiced the lemons. I have about 5 lemons in that cup.
Strained.
Strained. And I'm continuing to just basically separate and have my eggs ready. This is the egg. I like using my hands. Separate the yolk because you get it all. Never be afraid to use your hands. So I'm basically, for this big pot of soup, I want to use about 6 eggs because we need to get it nice and thick because it is a big pot of soup. Meanwhile, I already added the rice in there to continue cooking with the meatballs.
Which I did not see. Stand by, guys. Let's see what goes on. There's definitely rice boiling in there with the Yourvelakia. So she did it. I didn't see it. It's done though. It's in there. And now we got the separation of the egg yolks from the egg white.
I think 6 eggs for this big pot is good. But if you're making the 2-pound mixture that I said, 2 to 3 eggs is more than enough. Is more than enough. Use 3 for this thick. So we separate it because we're going to froth the egg whites. We're going to froth them when it's time. So I pre-prepared. I have it done. I used 2 for 6 eggs. I think it should be more than enough. I don't want to use any more because I put 3 in this mixture. So that's a lot of eggs, but it's a lot of soup also. And then wash your hands and wait for the soup to finish.
All right, guys. So we got egg whites, egg yolks, strained lemons, Yourvelakia boiling off. We got the fava brewing.
When you start to see the fava coming to this state, you see how it's whitening and how it's creaming itself. It doesn't need to be creamed.
You hear that, guys? It's creaming itself. It doesn't need to be creamed. You got that?
And that's what makes actually the Greek diet and the Mediterranean diet so good, because if you know how to cream the things, you don't have to use all those butters and all those fats and all those flours, because this essentially, it's like a flour. If you grain this, you're going to get flour out of these split peas.
Are you getting the education out here or what? I told you we're more than just roasting and ranting over here.
See? So this is a good consistency. Now, if you want, George, you can actually close this pot like this, just the way you see it. I would close it. Turn your stove off because it's complex for this.
All right. It says off right there in the bottom of the arrow. Above the... That's
good. So you can just basically turn this off, and if you leave it, when it starts to cream itself like this, and when it starts to like glue together, you leave it there, cover your pot, and when you come back when it's cold, it's going to be already thickened by itself.
So basically it's going to absorb its water like rice and thicken up. The stove is off, you just saw it go off. We're covering the pot, and we'll show it to you as it roasts itself down and absorbs its water. Meanwhile, we're brewing and brewing and brewing the soup.
Yeah.
And
you know, now that I look at the soup after all the rice went in, you know something? You know, as any cook, I think I'm going to add some butter to it, or some oil if you want, because you see, the rice is not cooked yet, and for this amount, I see that now I would rather have a little more fat in it. So I'm going to.
So we got butter right here.
You want butter or you want oil?
I'm not cooking. You're cooking.
All right. So I would rather have butter because rice is good with butter. So I'm just going to take basically,
that much.
This much. This is about a tablespoon
and a half.
Butter. Yeah, about a tablespoon and a half, which is good. It's going to give it a nice buttery, creamy taste to it. But if I feel like I want to put more, hey, you know, I don't use much.
We don't skimp here on the butter.
No, we do skimp on the butter because we have cholesterol issues. But we like butter.
butter.
Maybe they should have the mountain butter. it's worse than ghee.
There you go. All right, guys. So we're brewing, and we'll be back again. All right, guys. We're back.
All right. So you see how everything has reduced down. Look at the nice color on the broth from the starch from the rice and a little bit of butter. And then you see that, you know, when you pick up a spoonful, you get a lot of rice because it has like doubled and tripled by now. And I think this is basically good enough. I'm going to turn the soup off and let it cool. So
you hear that? You're turning it off to let it cool. That's important.
You must let the soup cool before you start preparing the eggs. It has to be, I would allow it to be between 100 and 150 degrees. So it can do the eggs. So we won't cook the eggs, and it will give it a nice creamy taste without putting any cornstarches or anything else or creams to thicken it.
You're listening here, Fred.
Okay. So cover your soup and just let it cool down.
Cover the soup, let it cool down.
Okay. So
now we're going over here at the fava.
We went back to the fava after a little bit. And you can
remember,
see,
it's been off, guys. It's been off.
It's been off. It's still simmering. Now look, you see? As you're picking it up, if you remember how it was before, and you can see it now, it's starting to like
thicken up,
glue together. Don't move it around too much because we don't want to disturb it. Let it finish absorbing its juices. And that's that.
Okay, I've seen this before, so I could say this. If it doesn't bind according to the eye, then you just restart the heat and let it bind some more.
And we're going to go check on our on the bread to see how our bread is coming. Meanwhile, you know something? God help us that these pots don't fall on our head.
The pots ain't going nowhere. So we're pulling out bread, guys.
The bread is starting to basically turn color. It's not cooked yet, but it's looking good. See the bottom one?
Yeah. So
not done
when
yet.
I used to vacation holidays in Greece as a youth, you know, most Greeks, and I'm no different, my parental figures used to make it their business to send us overseas as children. Summers, I've been to Greece many times, guys. So what happens here is the bread is an event making in the town about once a week, usually on either Saturday, because Sunday they had to have the breads ready for church and whatnot. But what happens is, it's an event. All the old ladies got together, they made their flours, they let the bread rise. They had real brick ovens made out of stones and bricks. They light them up. 20, 30 women got together at one oven, and they baked the breads. Now what happened? The little kid used to hover around because we weren't stupid, and I wasn't that stupid either. The old ladies knew the deal. Little kids came around, they came around for one reason and one reason only. Not because we loved them. No, it had nothing to do with love. We came around because they had the olive oil in their pocket in a little bottle. This is a little bottle, this is still large. I'm talking about a little bottle. Maybe like 4 fingers. They carried the olive oil in their side robe while they were baking the bread. And in the other pocket, they had the sugar. Right. So the bread came out hot. They'd rip a piece off, douse it in olive oil, sprinkle sugar on it, hand it to us, and we get out of their hair. That was the treat of Saturday. Now you know the deal. So we're here. We got the eggs, the egg whites, the egg yolk. The soups are off, the breads are going. And we'll be back. Alright guys, so what's happening here is that Mom says that the soup is at the right temperature. She mentioned the temperature earlier. Now we're going to check to really see what the temperature of her liking